Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here today with my friend Rachel Hastert. She is a clinical research coordinator at Sutter Health, and we're really happy to have you here today, Rachel.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. I'm going to start out with a relatively simple question. What kind of science do you do?
So a very interesting question. I basically help with the implementation of clinical trials for new devices, mostly. So I work in a cardiologist's office, and when they have new clinical trials that they think patients would be a good fit for new devices that are either improvements
And these
that
are
already exist.
medical devices?
Yes, medical
Okay,
devices.
cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Mostly medical devices. So either improvements on like the technology that already exists or therapies that already exist, or a completely new therapy that like there is no alternative for. We enroll people onto trials to help evaluate if the devices work, if they are safe, if they're effective, all of that kind of stuff.
I don't know if it's like top secret, super classified information, but could you tell us like an example of a cool project you've worked on?
Yeah, so the coolest like device trial that I work on, which is most of the ones that I do, are to replace like some of the valves in your heart. So your heart pumps, it pushes blood throughout your body, and then there are valves that close off, so it doesn't flow back or flow in the wrong direction. And as people age, a lot of them, for sometimes just unknown random reasons, get these like calcium buildup on like the leaflets of the valve, so the valves don't close very well and aren't very effective at stopping blood flow going the way it's not supposed to. So in the past like 10 or 15 years, there's been a big movement within the structural heart world, to offer alternatives to open heart surgery. So a lot of the times these people come in, and instead of getting open heart surgery, they insert a catheter up through a vein or an artery in your leg and are able to implant a new valve from that.
So they can put something in your heart by they go all the way up from your leg, all the way up. Wow, that's wild. That's crazy.
Yeah, and they're able to put valves in like different areas of your heart, depending on what the issue is. The most common one that they do through that method, the transcatheter method, are aortic valves. So they're called transcatheter aortic valve replacements, or TAVRs, which has blown up.
I imagine that's much more preferable to somebody cracking your chest open.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would definitely take that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. If you get the option, most people would prefer that method.
Awesome. And so I assume it takes, like, to put a project like this in motion, I assume it takes quite a fair few people doing all kinds of different jobs.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. We almost always work with a sponsor company. So they're basically like an industry company. They've developed the valve or whatever the technology is. They've spent hundreds and hundreds, thousands of man hours like working out the kinks and doing animal studies, making sure that they think that it would be an effective device, basically. But you don't really know any of that until you can start using it in humans. So there's a whole like massive crew on the sponsor side that does all of like the research and development. They deal with the FDA and get all of the safety, paperwork done, do all the safety assessments, and then they put together these big protocols for different like trials to be able to actually study how how a technology works in humans. So I actually work on like the doctor-patient side. I don't work for a sponsor company. So I help like implement those research protocols to actually enroll patients.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're working, so there's some big company wherever they design a device or medicine or whatever, then they give it to you guys, and then you give it to people and make sure it works.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we give it to people and we collect a bunch of data on each of those people and basically send back all of the data to the sponsor company for them to analyze and, see what the trends are, see, if one group of patients does better than another in one population, all of the results stuff they do.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then can you tell us a little bit kind of specifically about like, what are you doing within this situation? Like when you go to work, what do you do?
Yeah. So the most like rudimentary way to say it is we're basically like the secretaries for the trial.
Okay.
So we basically take the protocol and, try and make sure that it happens compliantly. We try and make sure everything's documented. So we basically work with the doctors. If they identify a patient that they think would benefit or be a good candidate for a trial, they'll talk to them, introduce the concept of the study and whatever device that they're hoping to use, answer the patient's questions, and then we'll talk to the patient. So the research coordination team talks to the patient, and if the patient's interested, we'll have them fill out this like 15 or 20 page consent form that explains, this is the process, this is all of the stuff that will happen to you, these are all of the risks, to make sure it's documented that like, yes, they are aware and informed and this is all being done.
It can't come back to bite you later. And
yeah, exactly.
Okay. All the legal mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll fill that out with them. We'll help them, get everything scheduled, both that they need for their like regular standard of care assessments and procedures, on top of whatever is specifically requested for the trial. A lot of times we go to actual procedures and like bring the device because the research devices are usually kept, kind of sequestered away so no one accidentally uses them. We keep them in a locked cabinet in our office, so we'll bring the devices down to the operating room or the cath lab where the procedures happen. And we basically just document the hell out of everything to make sure that it's really clear, what happened and who was there and why.
And so do you have a lot of like direct communication with both the doctors and the patients?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're like personally talking to them, taking data?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the doctors will fill out their notes. When you go see a doctor, they have a chart for you and they fill out, this is what we talked about. These are the medications that you're taking. These are your complaints.
Sure.
This is the plan. We use information from their charting, and then specific like research assessments. Sometimes there's questionnaires to see, how people feel day to day. There's some like physical exam stuff that we'll do directly with the patient. We collect basically all of that data and send it back to the sponsor company so that they can use it at different, time points. There's usually a screening time point when someone is like first being enrolled, nothing's happened yet. That's like the baseline to compare back to. And then we collect data, sometimes out to 10 years after people have had some kind of procedure.
Right. Okay. I got 4 more questions. Can you, okay, you good to go? All right. Awesome.
4 more minutes.
Okay. All right. Well, speed through. What do you, so I'm going to ask you both what you find challenging about your job and what you really like about your job. And I'll let you, whichever order you want to do those two.
Okay. What I find really challenging about my job is that it can be really difficult to like coordinate with so many moving parts. Getting someone signed up for a surgery or a procedure is, there's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of systems in place like within the hospital, and research classically always interrupts that. They always like throw a wrench in everyone's plans because there are specific ways that research needs things to be done, certain like time points and orders, and this can't happen before that. That makes it really difficult for everyone, basically, to make sure that it all gets done, in the right order. And just communicating with people that like, this is a research patient, this is how it has to go, when they're used to, their regular
flow.
Like they have a workflow that's well established, and research always comes in to make it more difficult.
So there's kind of a clash between like the general care doctors and nurses and the actual research team. Everyone's got a different way of doing things. Okay.
Right. It's not that they're not on board. It's just that they are used to things working one way for, 95% of their patients. And then every now and then a research patient will come along, and it always
like throws a wrench in things. Yeah. Word.
Yes.
And then
what I like about my job is, honestly, working with patients can be really like empowering and satisfying. Like a lot of people are like really like appreciative that they got to like participate in a trial, or that they got basically access to like a new therapy or a new device that like improves their quality of life. That helps them avoid getting open heart surgery. People love being able to avoid, those bigger, more complex surgeries. So people are everyone can be difficult to work with. Like patients can be difficult, just like any, group of the public. And a lot of times they're like scared and frustrated, but generally they are a really lovely group of people, and they can be, they're just very apprioustive when
I bet, especially if you're doing something that might save their lives. I can imagine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Improving their quality of life. That's the goal.
Awesome. And then, okay, 2 more questions. What did it take to like get here? What was like your pathway? Like, were there certain like education? Did you need to know people? Like,
kind of both. In my case, is like how it worked out, but I don't think it was necessary that it had to happen that way.
Okay.
So basically, when I finished college at UCSC, which is how
Banana slugs. Yeah.
Throughout college, I thought I wanted to go into academia. I thought I wanted to like go get a PhD and like work in a lab and do that kind of research. And halfway through, I realized like that just wasn't appealing to me anymore. Like it was, too long of a slog, and all the times you run into you work on a project for years and you run into a small issue, and then it's like all for nothing, right? So I basically decided that wasn't what I wanted to do. And as I was applying for jobs after school, the jobs that I was interested in were basically had some kind of like patient-facing component, where it had some kind of like clinical aspect, of taking vitals or drawing blood or that kind of thing. So my path was basically going to get a phlebotomy certificate, and then the first job that I got basically interviewed and accepted for was at Sutter Health for a research phlebotomist. So for a trial basically where we were drawing a lot of people's blood, and I got very lucky because my boss who hired me had also gone to UCSC.
Oh,
basically
nice.
Studied the same thing. I guess she like saw my resume and saw those things and was like, done.
That one.
So I happened to just get lucky on that end, and then it moved into from just drawing blood to implementing the whole trials. So
cool.
yeah, it was a nice progression, but there was definitely some luck involved.
Cool. And then one last question.
Yeah.
This could be a short one or a long one, however you want it. Anything you want to say to the youth? Any like advice you have for youngsters?
I guess don't give up until you find something that you're interested in, because there will be something, and it could be something small and unexpected, and it'll change over time. And school is tough, but generally worth it. Fingers crossed. Yeah, but I think honestly, there's like something out there that will be interesting and like engaging about school for everyone. So hopefully it doesn't take too long to find it. Hopefully it ends up being worth it in the end, and it'll change over time. Yeah, it definitely changes over time. But don't let it scare you.
You might not end up where you thought you did.
Yeah, you will almost certainly not end up where you thought you did, and it's probably for the best.
Exactly. All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rachel.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Guys, if you have any questions, as always, you can throw them in the comments. You can email me directly, and I'll forward them on. Have a great afternoon.